What's up, y'all? My name is Marquise and I am a filmmaker and educator from the great city of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Now, I'm super happy to be here. I got asked a few questions from Rufus King International Middle School. Super excited to answer them, so let's get started. Why did I choose to help the community and city of Milwaukee? I'm from here, born and raised from this city, grew up on both the east side and the north side of Milwaukee, and my family is from here. I'm a third generation Milwaukee born and raised, so it's less about wanting to, help the community and help the city and more of a responsibility to do so. I don't get to choose to help my city. I have to. That is a responsibility that me from being here, I have to take on, and I have to put forth in my mission as a filmmaker. And it's not by obligation, but it's by the sheer fact that I know that I'm a part of a legacy of people from this city, and there are people under me, whether they be little cousins that are coming into the city or my own children that may come into the city. I want them to know that I have a immense lot of pride and honor and revere for this place that we all call home. So choosing to serve Milwaukee in the way that I'm serving in Milwaukee is less of about helping a troubled city and more about giving back to a city that has given so much to me. It's in one part about archiving our history and making sure that we understand who we are at all points of our lives, and making sure that we have not only books but visual references and visual things that we can go back to say that, hey, this is who I am and this is who I will become. And it's also about just expanding who we are and expanding our thoughts and our imaginations. I think a lot of the time people think that people being from Milwaukee, since it's such a small city, that it's hard to get anything done here and it's hard to imagine here, and that it's hard to be something other than what people tell you to be. And it's true, it's difficult, but that's why I'm here, and that's why there are so many other creatives in the city here to show folks and to serve our community, to show them that they can exist in a lot of different multitudes and magnitudes. So that's why I choose to serve and help my community. Have I ever experienced racism or violence in the community growing up? And how did that make me feel? Yeah, I've experienced my fair share of both racism and violence within the city. I think growing up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, especially as a Black kid, you're kind of conditioned to seeing it over time, and you become desensitized to the amount of lives lost. But I think the one moment that definitely impacted me when I was a kid was when Alexis Patterson went missing, and just the sheer difference between community reaction and community response versus law enforcement response. And I think that really shook me to the core, as far as like, I am in this city and I have to not only navigate this city in a weird way, but I have to protect myself at all costs. And I think I've experienced my fair share of violence, whether it be relationships to gun violence, relationships to missing kids, missing children, and things of that nature. This city definitely has a lot of internal issues, especially as it comes to racism. I've seen the police not act, with urgency. I've seen them not show up in specific communities, and it definitely leaves us wondering whether they are for us in the first place, right? Where we're having conversations now about what our relationship with police looks like. And yeah, I think even outside of the violence in the city, I think growing up in a city where as a Black kid, you have to be so on your P's and Q's, and you have to work 10 times harder than the people who do not look like you, just so that you are not falling victim to the school to prison pipeline and stuff like that. It really, the systems and the racism put in place by people years ago are still affecting us today, where Black kids are suspended more often than their white counterparts, where Black kids are subjected to more violence in schools than their white counterparts. And it's all systematic, and it all rolls down to a couple of people making decisions that now affect the childhood of Black children in the city. So I've experienced my fair share of racism and violence in the city. And it, I think not only does it make me feel it motivates me more to figure out how I can eradicate those systems to begin with through film, but it also just allows me to understand that as Black kids, we're not alone, that we're going through this together, and it really forced me to lean on my community as much as possible. So that's how it makes me feel, and that's how I kind of work through it. Why is addressing racism important to me? I think it's less about addressing racism and more about telling more stories. I think for me, it's never, I think I already know how racism affects me, and the people that I make films for already know how racism affects them. I think it's more so about showing us in different ways as much as possible so that we can show people that we exist outside of just what racism has presented to us. I think we've gotten so used to just seeing, sad stories about Black kids in trauma-filled environments, and I'm not saying that those stories are not important, but what are those moments that we exist in outside of only those moments? What does our joy look like? What does our love look like? What does our intimacy look like? What do all of those other things look like outside of just racism? So I think in one part, it is addressing racism to say, hey, this is wrong. These are things that not only affect me, but it's been affecting my people for generations. And if we do not work to stop it now, it will continue to be a ripple effect on to the babies that are after us. But it is also about rejecting it and looking at it from another perspective where you're saying, hey, I want to actually now, I'm not focusing on teaching my white counterparts about racism, but I'm focused on creating more stories for my people to love and to find home in. And that's kind of how I choose to address racism, by not directly talking to white people about it, but making films about Black people that can make them see themselves outside of the various ways and the various stereotypes and the various racist ideals that we've been put in. What is one thing that I do every day to help make Milwaukee a better place? That is a loaded question because Milwaukee has a lot of work to do. It is a complicated city. It is a troubled city, but I think the best thing that I've been doing at least once a day is just continuing to work at telling stories that are from here, that are based here, and staying here in the city. As an emerging filmmaker, I've had a lot of people in my life that I look up to that question why I would return home, why I would come back to Milwaukee, and what would that mean, and I should stay in LA or I should stay in New York, or I should go, I should move somewhere else to a bigger place. But again, there's something calling me back here. And I think the thing that I'm doing each and every day is to continue to amplify people who are from this city in the beautiful and most authentic way as possible, so that their stories can be heard, because we have so many stories. So many people believe that Black people don't live here, but we do. We exist, and that is what I'm doing. I'm trying to tell stories of people who live here, who are from here, and who've been here for a while. And hopefully that's making a difference. I don't know if it is. I hope it is, but that's kind of what I'm doing to just feel better about being in this city despite all of its troubled parts. Last question, I'm gonna make it quick. How can we as young people help to stop racism and violence in Milwaukee? It's a heavy question. Racism is hundreds of years old. It is something that is systematic, and I think the best thing that young people can do is continue to use their voices as much as possible. Use your voices in creative and abundant ways that are different from the past. What are new ways that we can continue to communicate and talk to others about the trouble of racism, but also continue to educate yourselves as much as possible. Whatever art form you're interested in, learn it inside and out. Whatever politics you're interested in, learn it inside and out. Learn the bad, the good, the ugly. Learn every side so that you are more informed with your voice to move forward, to be able to amplify those voices that are usually voiceless. So yeah, that's what young people can do. But also, as young folks, please enjoy your youth. Have fun, smile, laugh, have joy, make time for joy. As we fight for racism to be finished, as we fight for it to have some type of end, continue to always fight for freedom and fight for joy and fight for laughter just as much as you are fighting to eradicate and erase racism. So yeah, that's all that I have. Thank y'all for having me. My name is Marquise, and peace out.